Everything I tried, and everybody here can testify to that. Every diet I tried, everything I did didn't work out. And I talked about, a few months ago, I was listening on the internet, and had all these experts and scientists and nutritionists and doctors and everybody talking about the solution to this weight problem or any kind of obsession towards food. I always like to put that in. Obsessively people try to control it either way, right? Overindulging or underindulging. Anorexia, going to bulimia, with all of these things that it creates the craziness of the thinking. But one thing they didn't mention throughout the whole meeting is what in our book it tells us Dr. Silkworth said. He realized that doctors and scientists couldn't figure all this out. There's only one solution, a spiritual solution. I didn't hear the word spirituality. It was an hour-and-a-half meeting it mentioned once. It was all about trying to control it. Somebody said, well, every night if you get hungry, brush your teeth or do this or do that or control this or do that or weigh this or everything like that. So, hey, listen, I got to be honest with you. It does work, but only temporarily. I was on a very strict, what's called the gray sheet diet for a year. But I was miserable every day. I might as well have gone out and eaten. When we were in AA meetings, we'd say to somebody, came and they were so miserable and they didn't want to work these steps, that you'd be better off going back out. So, because you're going to anyway. I mean, there's only one solution. And to me, again, I always use examples of God's gift of I have an orange, an apple, or water, whatever it is. This alone, and I bring this up every meeting, this alone, water, will change if you want God's clarity. I even drink it warm sometimes. You can put it in the refrigerator and chill it. But it's pretty amazing. That's the whole solution here. It's God's gift of the food. And having... and people say, oh, I'm a sugar addict, or I love sugar. Well, there's sugar in this, but it has healthy vitamins and nutrition in it. It has fiber. So, fruits and vegetables. I have a whole list here, all kinds of vegetables I eat. But the problem is these crazy foods that when you look on the package, has 50 ingredients, all this synthetic stuff. I always use the word salt, oil, and sugar. It's like if you eat the whole natural food, like years ago, people were a lot lighter because everything wasn't processed. It was natural, so the calories were a lot less. Processing could be anything from like frying foods and whatever it is. But if you eat the food whole naturally, after a while, your taste buds change, your attitude. I don't want anything with all. And I always talk about that gloopy drinks, which could be 1,200 calories, one drink, and here I could drink this and enjoy this. And I don't even want it anymore. So can you see how glorious and happy you'll be once you have this change of thinking and perception change towards your addiction? So anyway, and here it talks about being rocketed into another dimension of spiritual experience, but it's with everything in life. The joy and happiness when we get out of our own way and we lose the self to find the self, so to speak. We were meant to be happy and joyous, just like our body works perfectly, our heart beats, our breathing. And that's what's called the autonomic. It happens automatically. God gave us the gift of being able to think intellectually, and that's where we screw it up. It's called, in the book, they talk about self-will run riot. If it would happen automatically, it'd be fine. But when we do stop thinking of the self, then these automatically will be happy. Because every time you're upset or you're into your food or addiction, it's about the self. It's in our thinking. Everything is perception in life. Our perception towards the food and the addiction, it all has to do with the way we perceive it. Our perception now, if you're in the addiction, could be, I got to restrict it to have control, or I got to overeat and have a lot of food. So we can go through life and we can have what's called spiritual comfort. And I like to use the terminology spiritual bread because, and I always joke around saying it has very little calories. So when we have these thoughts about, which was indoctrinated into us from all the corporations telling us how we should eat, what we should eat, and what was good for us, and all the poisonous foods that they put out there that actually have chemicals in them that go into our brain and release the endorphins and become addicted to them. It's like on our TV, it's like a local person on the corner, crack a cocaine dealer. Every time you advertisements on the TV, wherever you see them, when you go into grocery stores, it's amazing how they totally inundate you with the packaging. They put the packaging at the eye level of children. So it turns out that we can have a solution to all of this, and it's only a spiritual solution where we change our perception towards our addiction and the food. And the way to do that is through these steps. It's a 12-step program, and I didn't realize for a long time how that was connected. If you liked the video so far, press the like and subscribe button. But it tells us here, and actually, and there is a solution in the big book on page 25, just to read. I don't like to read too much, but just a few sentences. It says, but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet, that's our 12-step program, we have found much of heaven. We've been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. So we didn't even realize we can have that perception change. So the slavery, we want to be free, right? Relieving your bondage of self. The whole program is about being free. But do you realize you're like in solitary confinement with our thinking? And again, we'll focus on the food. So our brain is inundated, and it's a prisoner of what these people who want to make money. And even, the Food and Drug Administration of our country, most of the people are from the corporations. Or if they're going to leave, they're going to the corporations. So where are we with all of this? We're back to like craziness and our insane thinking. And the steps 2 says we had to restore to sanity. Step 1, to go back to that, is everything I've been talking about, is I'm powerless. Well, it's page 62. If you have your big book there, and I have it right here. Okay. So it's telling us the problem. So we got to know that was my spiritual awakening, when I realized where the problem was. And it says here, selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and retaliate. But I love what it says in the next paragraph, the first sentence. So our troubles are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. The alcoholic, we could say food addict, or any kind of obsession you have, a codependent person, is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we must get rid of the selfishness. God makes that possible. So that's called the spiritual solution. So that higher power, finding the joy and happiness in here, not in the material. It could be people, food, money, success. They never satisfy. And on the other side is more pain. Well, you know yourself with addiction to food, how much pain does it cause when we have this obsession towards food? Again, we created it with the intellect, self-will run riot, that God gave us that ability to do that. But like I said, if you want it to work automatically, get out of your own way and just feel the joy that's really within us. And that's where prayer and meditation comes in. Then it happens automatically. When we don't use the intellect, we stop thinking, right? Step 1 says we're powerless. Our thinking, we're trying to control things and have power. That's when we get irritable discontent. And step 2 says we had to restore to sanity. The sanity comes in when we're centered. When you meditate, and you still take that for an example, you're in the present, right? You're just thinking the present, because the depression, upset comes from the past, and the anxiety about the future. So when we're in eternal present, and that's our really being spiritual, it could be a God, a deity, or God of our understanding, or nature, and something like that. Anything that's God-given. But when we obsess about and become very finite, it could be alcohol, drugs, or food, or people, then we just become very closed. We don't feel the vibrations around us, and the joy and happiness, it's blocked out. We block out the sunlight of spirit, as it says, and we don't let it flourish. So the food addiction, which a lot of people are here for, all has to do, and it's all related to this whole sense of trying to find the joy in food and the happiness there. Hopefully the book, see, all the pages fell apart, but on page 85, they have a saying, clean book, listen to this, clean book, dirty mind, clean book. So the point is that if your book is all underlined and everything, that means your mind is starting to clear up. Right? If you never pick up the book and this whole spiritual solution, by the way, this spiritual solution, people sometimes say AA and OA is a cult, or these 12-step programs, but they're based on all the major religions and philosophies. I read a bookshelves full of all these different things, but everything is in here in the first 164 pages of this. It's called the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. So page 85 talks about, it starts on 84, the 10-step promises. So this is what happens directly related. If anybody's heard about the food addiction, it says, we stop fighting anyone or anything or anyone. By this time, sanity will have returned. We had to realize how insane our thinking was, but we have a solution how to go back to sanity. What are we talking about? And we recoil as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. Wouldn't that be amazing? And we will find that this will happen automatically. We wouldn't have to try to control it. God gave us the gift. Our hypothalamus in our brain knows how to control everything. It's just when we try to take control, everything goes off kilter. But intuitively we'll know. And I always use an example in sports when somebody says they try to hit a golf ball or catch a baseball, whatever it is. If you really concentrate on where you should put your hand, you should do this, you should do that, you can't do it. It's by letting go that a lot of times the body and the mind knows just how to do things perfectly. But when we get in the way, we get self-centered and fear comes in and we can't. If you liked the video so far, press the like and subscribe button. The same with our diets. We're in self-centered fear. People come on, oh, I ate too much yesterday, this, and then remorse, shame, and guilt. We got to be centered in God's gift. No matter what we did a minute ago doesn't matter. We have the eternal present. And whatever shape we're in and wherever we're at with our weight doesn't matter. It's if right here, right now, you have the perception change and you're thinking differently. Even during this week, if you get the little perception change, and instead of just loving God's gift of the water, instead of having 10,000 ingredients in here, and this bottle could be 1,200 calories instead of 0. But this is God's gift, and the same with the vegetables and everything like that. But anyway, we do everything, including our addiction to food, right? Any kind of addiction with food, it could be compulsively overeating, restricting food. It's all a compulsion, but the reason we do it is we feel it's going to give us comfort, right? Everything we do is for comfort. We have the steps here, a program that releases and gives us something to replace. It could be alcohol, drugs, people, and all of this comfort, it comes from within here. We're looking on the outside. So the addiction to food, which we talk about a lot, we're here for all the major addictions. And we have, again, I always say addiction to people, right? Codependency, whatever it is. But here in this country, wherever around the world, I guess now, it's this food addiction. There's no other way out. I mean, even from the very beginning, our basic literature, which is the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, says that there was no other way out, Dr. Silkworth said, except a spiritual solution. So I have here spiritual comfort. So the momentary pleasure comes from things like, again, the material things of the flesh, money, success, the food. So we have a complete revolutionary change, and that's what the steps are all about. A new way of thinking. The old way didn't work. Not only the old way didn't work, but all the experts and everything I tried didn't work because I was using what's called the self-will. I created the problem. How could this mind that created the problem resolve it? But there is two sides to us. There's a spiritual side, and there's also spiritual comfort, right? We're back to that, and that's what it's all about. I like that. The joy and happiness is intuitively we'll know. I mean, God gave us a gift in our brain to know how to handle this food situation. But once we try to control it, all bets are off. It's like trying to hit, like before we were saying about trying to hit a golf ball and trying to figure out, put your left leg here, your right arm there, and then you can't even move, right? He had a story about there were two insects. One was a centipede, like with 100 or 1,000 legs. And there was another insect had 4 legs, so they're having a race. So this insect with 4 legs tried to figure out how he could win the race. So this is what he did. He told the centipede, he says, look, you got 100 or 1,000 legs, and you're really good at this, and I know you're going to win the race. I want you to think about how you move your legs. So at least after the race, if I lose, you could tell me the secret to how to manipulate, because you move all those legs, so you must have the answer. So the race started, and the centipede thought about it so he could tell the other insect afterwards, and he couldn't move because he tried to figure it out. And that's what we're trying to do in life. We're getting in our own way, and we try to figure everything out, but have that just relaxed center. We have prayer, meditation, and belief in our spirituality. A lot of people say, well, God my understanding. We're spiritual people, created to be, in perfection, really. Again, when you have a cut, it knows, look, if you get a cut on your hand, think of it that way. It knows perfectly how to heal it. If we get in the way and try to rub and do this and do that, it wouldn't work out. To try to, whatever we have to do. But God knows how to, and we're created that way. Our body and our mind knows. But because, again, I said before, we give them the intellect, that's where we screw it up. And the same with the food. God gives the gift of taking the food and putting it in our mouth. We screw that up too. So anyway, so we have a solution here. That's the whole thing. The whole chapter called There Is a Solution. In that chapter, in There Is a Solution, Roland Hazard went to see Dr. Jung, who was a famous psychologist at the time. And he was at the time of Freud, which was psychoanalysis, trying to figure everything out back then. And today they still try to figure it out, right? So what happened was he went and he saw the Dr. Jung. He went all the way to Europe from the United States. In those days, it was very difficult. You had to take a boat, I guess, over there. I don't know, it took a long time. So anyway, and then he came back and he was drunk in no time. He said, Roland Hazard said, I learned about the inner workings of the mind. He knew all how to analyze and everything, but still it didn't help him. So when he went back to see Dr. Young said, there is a solution that he noticed. And he said it's a spiritual solution, a change of perception. And he sees men having. That's what Bill had in Townsend Hospital with Dr. Silkworth. Dr. Silkworth said, I didn't recognize the man, but I knew him by name because he was in there twice before. And the same when Ebby walked into Bill, in Bill's story, his old friend Ebby came in, who was a down and out drunk. And then when he came in, Bill says, I didn't recognize him either, but there was something about his eyes that lit up and he saw the difference. He didn't recognize the man. So we can have a whole change of thinking, but that's forgetting about all the old self, right? Being renewed, the old in thinking. And actually on page 63, they use the word being reborn. Reborn, relieved of the bondage of self. The self is the whole problem. When you're upset during the day, it has to do about resentment, anger, right, with people. We say that, I shouldn't eat all this stuff because it has this devastating effects on me, but I don't want to eat it anymore. That's the beauty of the perception change. I don't want those sugary, gloopy things anymore with all the chemicals. So that I can joyful when I eat some wholesome. I'm on a whole food plant-based diet, whole food plant-based. But I enjoy that. And I say whatever diet you're on, whatever it is, so long as it's in moderation. But after a while, but if you try to control it through restricting it, you're not really changing your perception. You're just saying, I really want all that food, but I'm going to try to control it. So, but I just say, to me, so anybody here listening, I know that moderation is the key. And processed foods, whether you're vegan or whether you're into, high protein diet or paleo, whatever it is, everybody agrees it's the processed foods that have all the poison in it and create all the havoc in our systems and the calories, and they take the nutrition out. So the sugar you see with fruit, for me, it has the fiber, which slowly releases it, and it has a lot of nutrients. It's not refined, it's not processed. That's why I have no problem with it for me. Fruit is good because it has the fiber, which releases it slowly in the system. That's why I put in there whole foods before I plant-based, whole foods. Yeah. A vegan diet, you could eat all kinds of junk. You could have pizza and pretzels and beer. But whole foods, it's the whole food. It's the natural thing God gave us, and that's what I luxuriate in, and I love it. And I don't even have to, I'm not fighting it anymore because I want to. After a while, your palate changes. The vegetables taste so delicious, and all of especially the fruit. If you get away from the pastries and everything, you eat just whole natural fruit. It's like I'm in ecstasy when I eat fruit. Anyway.